Cleopatra, one of history's most famous women, has captured the imaginations of people for centuries. She was known for her beauty, intelligence, and political acumen. But what many people don't know is that Cleopatra wasn't just a ruler, she was also a lover, and one of her lovers was none other than Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful men. The story of how these two met is one that has been passed down through history and continues to fascinate people today. So sit back and let's dive into the tale of how Cleopatra and Mark Antony met. The year is 41 BC, and Mark Antony is in need of some alone time. He had just returned from a military campaign in Gaul and was feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. He needed a vacation, and where better to get it than in the city of Tarsus. Located in the southeastern part of Anatolia, Tarsus was a bustling metropolis with a rich history and culture. It was a melting pot of people from all over the known world, each bringing their unique customs and traditions to the city. As soon as he arrived, Antony checked into the grandest hotel in town, the Casa di Ottaviano, which was owned by none other than Cleopatra's sister Arsinoe. Little did he know that fate had a grand plan in store for him. For while he was there, word spread that Cleopatra was arriving in town, and everyone was buzzing with excitement. The entire city was decorated with garlands and tapestries as the locals prepared to welcome the Egyptian queen. Even Arsinoe put her best foot forward, eager to impress the powerful ruler. And then it happened. One sunny afternoon, Cleopatra arrived in style aboard a golden barge that was pulled by 8 elephants. The sight was so majestic that onlookers were left speechless. As the barge approached the docks, Cleopatra emerged from the shadows, her beauty shining brighter than the gold that adorned her vessel. She was wearing a flowing white gown that accentuated her graceful figure and a golden crown that glistened in the sunlight. Her dark hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall, and her eyes sparkled with intelligence and charm. The crowd erupted in applause as she made her way onto the shore, eager to catch a glimpse of the legendary queen. Anthony, who had been relaxing in his room, heard the commotion outside and decided to investigate. He leaned against the doorframe and watched as Cleopatra approached. To say that he was stunned would be an understatement. He had heard rumors of her beauty, but seeing her in person was something else entirely. Their eyes met, and there was an instant spark between them. But why had Cleopatra come to Tarsus? You see, she had been summoned by none other than Mark Antony himself. He had sent messengers to Egypt requesting her presence, and she had traveled across the Mediterranean Sea with a fleet of ships to meet him. But what had prompted Antony to call her there? Well, it was all because of politics, of course. Antony was a shrewd politician, and he knew that Cleopatra could be a valuable ally. She controlled the riches of the Egyptian treasury and had a powerful navy at her command. Antony, on the other hand, was in the middle of a civil war with his brother Lucius and Caesar Octavian, who would later become the infamous Augustus. He desperately needed her support to bolster his own power base. But Cleopatra was no fool. She knew that Antony was one of the most powerful men in Rome, and that his support could be invaluable to her. She had heard stories of his charm and wit, and was curious to meet him. Plus, she was always up for an adventure, and traveling to a new city was always exciting. Now that they had both arrived, it was time for them to meet properly. Antony, being the gentleman that he was, sent a chariot to escort Cleopatra to his hotel. When she arrived, he greeted her with a warm smile and a handshake. But their pleasantries were interrupted by the arrival of Cleopatra's entourage, which included her sister Arsinoe and a group of loyal handmaidens. They exchanged greetings, and then Antony invited Cleopatra and her party to join him for dinner at the Casa de Octaviano. As the night wore on, the banquet continued. The table was laden with delicious food and fine wine as Antony and Cleopatra talked for hours. They discussed politics, philosophy, and art, and they found themselves getting along famously. There was a palpable chemistry between them, and it was clear that they were both attracted to each other. The next morning, Antony awoke feeling refreshed and eager to start the day. He had slept well, and it wasn't just because of the comfortable bed in Cleopatra's guest room. No, it was because he couldn't stop thinking about the previous night and the enigmatic Cleopatra. He got up and started pacing the room, trying to shake off the memory of her beautiful face and the sound of her enchanting voice. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and in walked Cleopatra, looking as radiant as ever. She had brought him a basket of figs and dates, and the two of them enjoyed the sweet treats together, talking about everything and nothing. The days that followed were filled with romantic strolls through the bustling city of Tarsus. Evenings spent in luxurious baths and nights filled with passionate embraces. Antony and Cleopatra were head over heels in love and couldn't get enough of each other. Meanwhile, Arsinoe was loving the attention she was receiving from Rome's most eligible bachelor. She had always admired Antony from afar, and now that he was showering her with affection, she felt like the luckiest woman in the world. Of course, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of jealousy towards her sister. Knowing that Cleopatra was the one who had truly captured Antony's heart, but she was a gracious host and made sure that the lovers had plenty of privacy. One evening, as Antony and Cleopatra were taking a moonlit stroll through the gardens of the Casa de Octaviano, they stumbled upon a small temple dedicated to the goddess Venus. The sight of the beautiful structure and the serene surroundings brought them both to a peaceful calm. They sat down on a nearby bench and talked about their future together, unaware that their every move was being watched by a pair of jealous eyes. Arsinoe had been hiding in the shadows, observing her sister and Antony as they laughed and joked around. She had tried to warn Cleopatra about Antony's intentions, but her sister had been too blinded by love to listen. Now Arsinoe was determined to break them apart. She went to Antony and told him that Cleopatra was only interested in him for his power and wealth. She painted her sister as a deceitful and manipulative woman who would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. Anthony was shocked. He couldn't believe that Cleopatra, the woman he loved with all his heart, could be anything but genuine and honest. But Arsenio's words had planted a seed of doubt in his mind. He started to question Cleopatra's motives and began to see her in a different light. Meanwhile, Cleopatra was growing suspicious of Arsenio's behavior. She had noticed her sister's jealous glances and snide remarks, and she knew that Arsenio was up to something. She confronted her sister and demanded an explanation, but Arsenio only laughed and told her that she was just looking out for her own interests. Cleopatra was furious. She had never trusted her sister, but she had hoped that their relationship would improve. Now she realized that Arsenio would never give up her schemes, and she was left feeling betrayed and angry. Determined to expose Arsenio's treachery, Cleopatra went to Antony and told him the truth about his sister's behavior. She explained that Arsenio had been spreading rumors about her and trying to sabotage their relationship. Anthony was ashamed. He realized that he had been a fool to believe Arsenio's lies and vowed to make things right. He went to his sister and confronted her, finally seeing her true colors. In the end, Cleopatra and Mark Antony's relationship lasted 4 years. They had 2 children together and ruled over Egypt and Rome as a powerful couple. Arsenio, on the other hand, was banished from Rome and lived out the rest of her days in obscurity. If you liked this video, make sure to check out more content. With that said, see you in the next video.